Express. Famous for idyllic islands strewn across the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean, visitors and locals alike are charmed by quaint hillside villages, loads of otherworldly geographical features, and many prime vantage points for viewing some of the world's most romantic sunsets. Let's set off with Wilson as he hops round the Greek Isles in search of sand and sun, sips and dips, and perhaps even a proper nibble. Athens, steeped in ancient history, Greece's capital is a veritable gold mine for those who revel in the past. Wilson paid a visit to the Acropolis, where structures built over 2,500 years ago still stand today. However, it's not long until Wilson scurries down from his perch on the Parthenon to sniff out a steaming cup of Greek coffee.
Stand good.
Ever the jet-setter, Wilson departs too sweet for Milos, a volcanic island bursting with beautiful beaches, mineral-rich landscapes, and tiny seaside villages. Straight away, Wilson heads to the village of Blaka and finds traditional whitewashed walls, colourful doors and windows, narrow alleyways, balconies bursting with flowers, and home-style tavernas. The chapel is a popular spot for sunset views, and Wilson sets up to watch nightfall over the Bay of Milos. The next morning, Wilson heads to Pagliacciari Beach, arguably the most popular beach on Milos. Rainbow-coloured cliffs and rocks decorate the beach, creating a stark contrast with the strikingly blue waters. A sunny day sure works up Wilson's appetite, and the deal is sealed when he spots an intriguing advertisement for some local cuisine. Lunch begins with a Nisos beer, the perfect accompaniment to lolling about in the Mediterranean.
Really refreshing.
Although it may not be the most visually stunning tapenade, Wilson pays no mind as he tears into the bread like a ravenous beast.
I love tapenade.
As it turns out, volcanic food is buried under the sand to be cooked by the heat of the volcano, making for a rather satisfying resolution to Wilson's query. Wandering round the island, Wilson spots a breezy waterfront cafe and can't resist the call of a cool rosé.
It's pretty good.
Stumbling onto a deserted beach, Wilson finds relaxation in the gentle waves and catches the final rays of an utterly glorious day. As the sun sets and the moon rises, Wilson's stomach begins to sound the alarm. The port town of Adamas is humming with activity, and soon Wilson finds himself face to face with a crystal ball of wine. Not one to speculate about the future, Wilson dives in, seizing life by the glass.
It's pretty good.
Next up, Wilson tries horta, a dish of boiled greens that are a staple of many Greek meals. The leaves used to make horta vary and depend on what is available for harvest in the wild.
Oh, you're gonna like these.
There's no shortage of seafood in the Mediterranean, and Wilson has cast his net over a small clutch of plump shrimps, laid to rest over a bed of piping hot linguine. So how does it go?
Forgot to pepper it.
Oh dear, Wilson forgot to pepper it. Sure does seem like an awful lot of pepper. Finally, Wilson has deemed the dish appropriately peppered and ready to eat. So what's the verdict, Doctor?
It's really good.
As Wilson devours the crispy crustaceans, he begins to evaluate his strategy.
I had a shell. I don't know if you're supposed to eat it or not, but it's fucking good.
Wilson seals his meal with mastica, a liqueur made from the resin of a small evergreen tree native to the region.
Really good.
The next next morning, Wilson ventures to Klima, a traditional fishing village where colourful two-storey houses are set only a few feet away from the lap of gentle waves. Although the village may not be as bustling as it was in the past, there is evidence that some traditions do indeed continue. Well, Wilson's had just about enough. Coffee and breakfast are in order, and Wilson pulls up a chair at the local cafe. Grace's yogurt is revered round the world, and Wilson can't resist jamming a heap into his gaping maw.
I love it.
Not satisfied with yogurt alone, Wilson orders stroppazada, a mixture of scrambled eggs, tomato and feta.
That's good.
Once Wilson has completed his feeding, he says farewell to Klima and heads to Agia Kiriaki Beach to wade in the dazzling waters. Wilson was told that Sarakiniko Beach was a must-see, and upon first arrival, Wilson felt as though he had somehow been transported to the moon. When the beach finally came into view, it revealed an incredibly unique landform, the result of powerful winds and waves from the north. Wilson took a dip, of course, and then spent a moment or two trekking about before it was time to catch a boat to yet another picturesque location. Wilson arrived at Agia Solstice Beach with time to spare for a quick beer.
It's good.
Wilson then boarded a boat to visit the more remote beaches of Gerontas and Cleftico. The coastal rock formations found here offer plenty of nooks and crannies for Wilson to explore, and he cannot resist scuffling about in the crystal clear waters. Lunchtime arrives, and Wilson finds himself stumbling about, searching for a way to satisfy his most primal needs. Wilson waits patiently and becomes overjoyed at the unexpected arrival of an unfamiliar yet entirely welcome appetizer.
It's good, but I don't know what it is.
Unable to resist the lure of a Greek-style burger, Wilson takes to it immediately, even without the usual comfort of a bun.
It's really flavorful.
The next stop is the island of Sifnos. Less travelled and therefore very peaceful, Sifnos is dotted with tiny villages and a few gorgeous beaches, of course. Not entirely comfortable in the heat of the Mediterranean summer climes, Wilson requires frequent lubrication, which in this case takes the form of a Milos beer.
This is really their national beer.
Correct as always, Wilson guzzles his suds and lays himself down for a proper seaside nap. As the evening falls, Wilson ventures out to scrounge up some sustenance. Sifnos is famous for its low-key lifestyle, well-preserved villages, and what many people deem to be the best food in all of the islands. After exploring the village, Wilson settles on an outdoor table at what appears to be a very promising eatery. At it again the next day, Wilson opts for 2 Greek classics as his lunch, tzatziki and a Greek salad. Sparing a rather comprehensive first bite, Wilson digs in. Non-verbal cues signal satisfaction.
Really good.
Wilson's time in Sifnos is already coming to a close, but not before admiring the beautiful beach and monastery at Chrysopegia. After a short ride on the ferry, Wilson arrives in Santorini, one of the most well-known Greek islands, and for good reason. The red beach near Akrotiri is fantastic evidence of the powerful volcanoes that lurk underneath the island. Sun-soaked domes sprout up in the cliffside villages, which are easy to explore on foot or via the hooves of a donkey. Wilson has found himself at Argios Nicholas Chapel, where legend holds that women who ring the bells improve their fertility. Wilson throws tradition to the wind. After posing for photos at a natural heart carving, Wilson becomes restless. Breathtaking views abound, and Wilson sets out on the 10-kilometre journey from Fira to Iya. It's not long until Wilson captures the admiration of some locals, and on this stunningly beautiful trail, there are plenty of opportunities for Wilson to do some admiring of his own. Wilson arrives in Iya just in time to watch the sunset and to have a swig. We can't help but wonder, what in the world is Wilson thinking?
It's really nice.
As the sun sinks below the horizon, Wilson's stomach growls for its dinner. This being his final evening in Greece, Wilson takes a no-holds-barred approach. First up is mussel saganaki, mussels bathed in a rich herb tomato sauce.
Really good.
Wilson can't resist the tomato fritters, or any fritters for that matter.
Incredible.
Next up are the keftedes, also known as meatballs, which must be properly peppered.
I used your knife.
After the ownership of the utensils has been sorted, Wilson dives into a moussaka.
Oh yeah, I like it a lot.
Yet another divine dinner. We've followed Wilson's keen eye and discerning palate all over the Greek Isles, feeling inspired and, I dare say, a bit hungry. No matter where Wilson ends up, his enthusiasm and passion for travel is utterly contagious. Until next time.